Good morning, everyone. I feel like the kid who got promoted to the big person table at Thanksgiving. Reverend Stephen's so tall, though, we don't dare change the height. So, you can't hear me? Do I need to talk louder? How's this? Can you hear me better? No. So, good morning. How's that? Ooh, that's better. That's good. All right. Can you hear me in the back now, Carolyn? All right. Wonderful. Welcome, everyone, and thank you for being here this morning on this above freezing temperature morning. How terrific is that? Yay. So happy about that. On behalf of the worship committee, welcome to the UUCC. I'm Melody Smith. Our minister is Reverend Stephen Robinson. We're so glad to have all of you here. We stream on Instagram, on YouTube and Zoom, so we want to say hello to everyone out there in virtual land and let you know that we're so glad that you're with us. We invite everybody to join us in whatever capacity that they can, anytime they can. Also, we have our website at uucolumbia.org, and you can follow us on Facebook and Instagram if you're still doing that. And we also provide weekly email updates called the e-blast. They have there's announcements that are happening in the church. Anything that's going on for the week will be contained in that e-blast. So that's a good resource for people to check in with. We warmly welcome our families. We love our kids and our families, and we offer childcare during service for children, infants up to the age of 4 years old. Children, if you're interested in volunteering with the nursery, you can talk to Bethany Storlazzi. She coordinates that, and she does a great job. We also have a designated seating area in the back, right in the corner, for children and their parents to play. So children are welcome to get toys off of the wonderful bookshelf that we have in the back of the social hall, bring those forward and play with the supervision of their parents or caregivers. We have just one short announcement, a couple of short announcements this morning. We at the worship committee would like to remind everybody that we are gathering and we are here for a sacred purpose of this time of reflection, connection, and spiritual growth, and we appreciate everyone coming together to do that. And we appreciate the time that we spend together. Announcements can be very important to the workings of the church. That's why I mentioned the e-blast, which is a really good place to find information about what's happening in the church. If you have an announcement that you need to get out to the congregation, please contact Cindy or the worship committee so that we can make that arrangement for everyone. It's also in the order of service and as I said, and in the e-blast. So thank you for helping us out and staying on message within the service time. Now, having said that, I have an announcement on behalf of the Mountain Committee. If you plan to attend the Mountain Volunteer Week, which is February 14th through the 23rd, and haven't signed up yet, please inform the committee today so staff can arrange sleeping space for you. See Marlene Trader or Joan Watterson to be able to make that happen. So Marlene has her hand up in the back, and Joan is right over there as well. Thank you, ladies. Terrific. Now, please silence all your devices. Here we go. This is my favorite part. So I'll take a collective breath because we need it. All right. Shut off all of your devices. Let the world outside go away. Okay. And center ourselves so that we can listen to the prelude.
This month we recognize and honor Black History Month, and we'll be featuring the music of amazing African American songwriters, composers, and lyricists. Our prelude this morning is by Nkiru Okoye, a composer, pianist, and conductor who received her degrees from Oberlin College and Rutgers University. She was the recipient of a grant for groundbreaking research on Black women composers, through which she authored a finding aid for the works of Black women composers and began a collection of works for the Oberlin College Conservatory Library. Her compositions are written for orchestra, chamber ensemble, and piano, and are a collage of American, West African, and European musical traditions. This morning's prelude is from African Sketches, Dancing Barefoot in the Rain.
That's beautiful. Thank you, Anna. I can see an African bird in a tree singing just like that. Thank you again. Rise in body and spirit and join me for the Congregational Covenant. It's in your order of service. Love is the doctrine of this congregation. The quest for truth is its sacrament, and service is its prayer. To dwell together in peace, seek knowledge in freedom, and serve others in community. Thus do we covenant with one another. Please be seated. Unitarian Universalism is a diverse and non-creedal religion. Our community is founded on deeds, not creeds. We are a covenantal religion, meaning we don't have to believe the same to treat each other the same, with respect, equity, compassion, and dignity. We place love at the center of our values, embracing and welcoming all people. We are delighted to welcome our guests and visitors today, and my friend Elisa, right? I had a little performance anxiety worrying about saying her name, but Elisa is going to help me out. If there are any visitors, would you please stand and introduce yourselves. Let us know where you're from.
Hi, I'd like you to welcome Lizzie Van Harn from More Justice. She'll be around after the meeting, but let her introduce herself.
Good morning, all. I'm so glad to be here. This is my second time here at UUCC. I'm from More Justice. I'm on staff with More Justice. Been happy to get to know some folks from here. And I know something that I'll just say about our work, that I've felt very hopeless and very powerless in our world, especially lately. And this is some work where I see how we can have power in our community to make a change. And so I would love to talk to anyone about it after service. And yeah, good to be here.
Welcome, Lizzie. We're glad to have you.
Hi, I'm here, and you've probably all seen PK Knotts. He's been here for several weeks now, and he said I can introduce him today. He moved here from Charlotte. He was a UU there for 5 years, and before that, a UU in Raleigh. He had a stroke back in October. He's recovering, but if anyone knows of a room for rent or something, he is looking for more permanent housing. So please contact me or him, okay? Thank you.
Nice. Thank you, PK. Welcome, PK. Elisa, in the back.
Oh.
Hello, Hello, my name is Tricia Rickenbaker. I grew up in South Carolina, and I belonged to this congregation when it was first beginning, and we met in a house on right over here in Beltline. Yes, But I've been a gypsy for most of my adult life, and I am back home now. I live with my 5 siblings in what we call our family compound, down near the Santee Orangeburg area. I live in a log cabin in the woods. So I am sort of looking for a quieter life. Nice to be here.
Welcome back, Tricia.
Hi, my name is Jen. I'm here today with my daughter, Laura. She's back in the nursery. We're from Forest Acres, and my fiance can't be here today. He's a chef at Zaz, so he's always at work. Thank you.
Welcome, Jen. Thank you, everyone, and welcome. We're so glad to have old friends back and new friends to come. Visitors, there are cards in the back pocket of the green chairs that you sit in. If you're interested, please fill those out. We can put you on the mailing list for the e-blast so that you know what's going on, but we will not come to your door, okay? We won't send you pleas for money or anything like that, but we do want to include you if you want to be. Fill that out and put it in the collection plate so we can get that information to you. Also, our board members and committee chairs welcome your questions and comments. Board members wear green name tags so that they can't hide from you. So if you see somebody with a green name tag, if you don't have anything to ask them, at least stick your hand out and say thank you for all your hard work, because that is hard work. Today, my dear friend Kate Heald is going to be our chalice lighter. Kate has recovered from knee surgery enough to be able to come up and do this for me. And so we're grateful for that. Spirit of light and life, come unto us. Thank you, Kate. And now our opening song.
I invite you to stay seated for this morning's opening song, although it is from our hymnal. If you'd like to follow along with it, in your gray hymnal, it's number 60. This is a beautiful hymn called In Time of Silver Rain, and the lyrics are from the poetry of renowned African-American poet, novelist, social activist, playwright Langston Hughes. And the music is by the composer George Theophilus Walker. He was an American composer, pianist, and organist, and the first African-American to win the Pulitzer Prize for Music. This hymn is more challenging to sing than some of the ones in our hymnal, which is why today I wanted to include it, but simply invite you to listen, enjoy the creativity of the music and the beauty of the words.
And now, the one you're here to see, Reverend Stephen.
I'm not so sure about that, Melody. Thank you for your patience today. Our stage looks a little bit different. We are getting ready for the Partner Church Cabaret tonight. So we went ahead and got the stage ready and the floor ready and piano placed for that event this week. So that Bill didn't have such a busy Sunday afternoon getting all of that ready. So figured we could make do this morning. Unless I fall out the window here, which I'm right at, so we'll see. But other than being able to hear me, hopefully all is well in this process. So, our opening words today, I'm just going to say, for the sake of right now, that the words come from James. And that'll make more sense later in our service. James says, "At the moment, the power of reading made itself clear and real to me. If I could see the words, then no one could control them or what I got from them. They couldn't even know if I was merely seeing them or reading them, sounding them out or comprehending them. It was a completely private affair and completely free and therefore completely subversive." I invite our children to come down front and join me on the carpet for our story for all ages. So much room, don't we? Can you get this mic going, Paul? Good morning. Good morning. Give me just, there we go. Now, I know you could hear me. That way everybody out there can hear me because, you know, they care just as much what I'm about to say as you do. They want to know what we're talking about up here. And we got all this room here this morning. We should be running around or something, right? Or, you know what we could do? We could invite any of those folks out there that want to get down on the floor. Kate, how's that knee doing? Want to test it out? No? All right. Well, we'll see if they decide. We'll give them a second. So you got some cool toys, I see. Y'all have been playing a little bit. Today is the first Sunday in February, and we're doing something very special. Does anybody see that? Do you know what? Anybody know what that says? Black History Month. That's exactly right. What do you see in the words? Can anybody see? What do you see? People. You see guys and a woman, like, oh, does everybody see President Obama? That's one of the people. It's in the letter A. In the B, Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., so many others that I can't see without my glasses right now. So that is what February is all about, and we're going to be celebrating. You may have already heard Anna say that we're going to be listening to music by African-American composers. We're going to be celebrating different icons, different people that have been so important to African-American history in our congregation here. Yeah.
My birthday's in February.
And your birthday's in February.
That's Valentine's Day, so that's why I have a celebrate Valentine's.
Are you serious? Wow, the day after Valentine's Day. Wow, we got some cool days, the things to celebrate in February. So we look forward to every Sunday. We're going to be talking about different people that have...
February 14th is Valentine's
That is true. That February 14th is Valentine's Day, which is also something else we celebrate here. We celebrate love, which is what Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. taught us about love. So we look forward to every Sunday that we're going to be celebrating and remembering some pretty amazing people. As a matter of fact, we're going to have a pretty amazing person here with us next week. Miss Minnie Haynes, who is a former member of the UUCC, is going to be here. We're going to do a very cool book where you get to sing a song next Sunday. So we look forward to celebrating this month together. So thank you all for coming down, and have a great Sunday. Yeah, that's right. At this point in our service, we come to a time where we have our candles of community, times where we open the space to celebrate our joys together as a community, but also we open this space to share our concerns and share those burdens that we're holding with each other. We always have candles out in our foyer, so you're welcome to pick one up. And anyone who has a candle today that they would like to share, invite you to come down, briefly share your joy or concern, and then put your candle here.
Now? Okay. I'm quoting Shakespeare, so listen up. Hell is empty. All the devils are here. I'm Pat Moore, and I'm up here to light a candle of just about existential concern. I can barely talk about it. My blood pressure doesn't go up easy, but I have a feeling it's really high. As I've been watching what's been taking place in the last few weeks, and particularly this last weekend, my sentiment is, what's it going to take? This has been a hostile takeover of our country, and they're taking all of our money, they're taking all of our power, and right now we don't know who's even got all the data. What I'm asking, I'm here to light a candle to say, hold on, we got to hold on to each other. We're all we've got, as they say. The other thing is the outrage. I turned to my daughter this weekend and said, where is everybody in the street? Why aren't millions of people out saying you're not going to do this? And I know there are plans, and I'm just here to tell you that I talked to Patty this morning, and there's a national strike plan for March that could have real impact. And there's always indivisible, and there's lots of local things. Don't sit back and do nothing. Don't let it happen.
I'm Bud Ashley. I want to thank the people who know what's going on for being there for me so far, and for the rest of you. I almost lost Chuck. We almost lost her twice this week. She had a brain bleed. And currently she's in Richland Neurological ICU. She was stable when I left her last night around 10 o'clock. But we still don't know exactly why it happened. But I wanted to light this for Chuck, and I want to thank everybody, you know who you are, who has been there already. Thank you, Steve.
Hi, my name is Brittany Boone. This candle of remembrance is for a lot. It's for Jonathan, Samuel, Ian, and Denasia, who are actually all my coworkers. In the flight that was hit by the helicopter, that crew was supposed to go to Burlington, Vermont next, and I was supposed to work it that morning. So I was supposed to be like a member of the next crew. I was out sick. I was replaced by someone else. I don't know how they eventually got home because all the flights were canceled the next day. Obviously, that plane was taken out of, is no longer operating. But it's a memory of them. It's a memory of the figure skating team that was on the plane, all of the passengers, all of the crew that were flying in and out of the airport that day and had to still operate, knowing that that plane had just been taken down and they still had to be professional. They still had to take care of the passengers on their own planes as they were frantically trying to figure out how they were going to get home or to wherever their next stop is. It's for our country that's not taking the proper time to really grieve it, because we're already moving on to blaming practices that had nothing to do with it, instead of taking the time to properly slow down. Is for the airstrikes that have taken place in the West Bank, where I was just a few months ago. Is for all of the people in Gaza that are returning to their homes. And there's a lot of joy there, but a lot of pain as well. So it's a very loaded candle, but I'm honored to light it.
This is a reality candle, as all ours are today. I'm Lee Mingy, and I've been told that the first year is the hardest, that there are many emotional landmines that occur. Julian has been the wine pourer and bartender for every cabaret that we have had up until now. The wine will be poured tonight, just so you know, and the show will go on in most magnificent fashion. Thank you, Anna, for all your creative pulling together of musicians, both classical and Broadway popular. And tonight there will be a dance showcase, 4 different dances, which is a new wrinkle. So the show will go on.
Hey everyone. My father, Ronald Edge, turns 96 tomorrow. So, and in his classic fashion, he keeps saying, I never meant to be alive this long. So, and by the way, he and Gertrude love the cabaret, just so everyone knows.
I joined Bud up here at his request, just in case he struggled to share about what was going on with Chuck and currently at the hospital. But I also want to add to that Caring Committee's been really supportive. So if you want to reach out to Jane Lothar or Sandra Merritt and find out ways that you can be helpful right now in the hospital, please reach out to them. Last candle I light is for our joys, our concerns that we're holding silently this morning. Now I invite you to take just a few deep breaths. A lot of heaviness in the room that we felt. A lot of people that we're holding in our hearts this morning. We could certainly add this to the list of concerns this morning. We were supposed to have our Share the Plate recipient speaker here this morning for Appleseed Justice Center. And I just want to read a brief statement that they shared with us of why Bridget was not able to be here with us this morning. It says, Bridget Brown was to speak with us today about our Share the Plate recipient for February, the South Carolina Appleseed Legal Justice. Unfortunately, she cannot be with us as she is helping to clean up from a fire that occurred at their facilities on the Washington Street. The fire did significant damage and caused them to lose some documents and history. This organization has served as a voice for low-income South Carolinians for social, legal, and economic justice for 45 years. They have been an important watchdog for many social issues in South Carolina and represent an important piece of protecting our community, not just for the low income, but at every level of social injustices. Your contribution to the Share the Plate recipient for February will not only help in this effort, but also in the financial losses that they suffered during the fire. And we, of course, will welcome Bridget or another representative from the Appleseed Legal Justice Center later in the month to share about their work. But you can contribute, obviously, through Share the Plate, through our different means with an envelope or on the website as well. This time I invite our ushers to come and receive our morning offering.
Our offertory musical selection is by Dr. Valerie Capers. Composer, arranger, pianist, and singer, this is from her set for piano, Portraits in Jazz. Valerie Capers was born in New York City and received her early schooling at the New York Institute for the Education of the Blind. She went on to obtain both her bachelor's and master's degrees from Juilliard and was awarded the honorary degree of Doctor of Fine Arts. At home in both the classical and jazz worlds, this set of piano pieces honors great jazz musicians from American history. And the one for our offertory today is called Billy's Song, honoring Billie Holiday, who lived from 1915 to 1959, a jazz and swing singer nicknamed Lady Day. She was known for her unique vocal delivery and improvisational skills. She had a difficult childhood and dropped out of school at age 11 and began singing in nightclubs in Harlem as a young teen, made her first recording at age 18, and continued to have a performing and recording career. She first performed the song Strange Fruit, a song about lynching, in 1939 at an integrated nightclub in Greenwich Village, with trepidation, fearing retaliation. She said her father was denied medical treatment for a fatal lung disorder because of racial prejudice, and that singing Strange Fruit reminded her of the incident. She said, "It reminds me of how Pop died, but I have to keep singing it, not only because people ask for it, but because 20 years after Pop died, the things that killed him are still happening in the South." Valerie Capers wrote, "This is a pretty ballad dedicated in fondest memory to the great lady of song. She had a special warmth and intensity about her, and her singing was an unforgettable experience due to so much sadness and tragedy in her personal life."
We receive our offering today, symbol of our commitment to our good work. As we are celebrating this month, and as I mentioned to the children, several icons, pivotal people in the history, in African American history, that are so important to shaping our culture here in the U.S. and shaping the work of justice. Today, I want to highlight a professor of English at the University of Southern California and a prolific writer, Dr. Percival Everett, who is the author of more than 30 books of fiction, winning numerous awards, and was a finalist with one of his novels for a Pulitzer for fiction. Dr. Everett was born in Augusta. His dad was in the military, so he was born in Augusta on a base there and grew up, does anybody know? Columbia, South Carolina. That's right. Y'all know where that is, right? His father opened a dentistry practice and was in a long line of family medical practices. Percival was expected himself to also follow in the footsteps of family and go into medicine as well, but he said in an interview later that he realized if he spent his time in medicine, he would have to be around people all the time. He didn't explain how he felt about that, but that does make sense. But what he did do as a young boy growing up here in Columbia is he grew a love for reading and for story. He graduated from A.C. Flora High School at the age of 16 and went off to study at the University of Miami. He was a philosophy student there, and as a philosophy student, he was interested in the work of Wittgenstein and the study of language and its importance, which spurred him to start writing dialogue as a part of his writing style and studies. In 1978, he began a doctoral program in philosophy at the University of Oregon in Eugene. While he was living in Oregon, he also worked on a ranch as a ranch hand. And some great images, if you look up those pictures of him that he shares, working with the sheep and the cattle that was on that ranch. Over time, he said that he and the sheep and the cattle together became disenfranchised with the work of philosophy. And so he decided, in consultation with them, to turn to writing fiction instead. So he left that program at Eugene, and after 2 years of working, he enrolled in another program at Brown University. It was while he was there that he wrote his first novel, Suitor, in 1983, which was a novel about a baseball player from the Seattle Mariners whose career was in decline. And he sends them all on this journey through this novel, which eventually lands him in the American West. And then, of course, the American West would become this kind of recurring backdrop from his time that he spent in Eugene, Oregon. In the mid-'80s, he also taught at the University of Kentucky. He taught at the University of Notre Dame. And at Notre Dame, he met a woman by the name of Francesca Rochberg, who was a scholar of Assyrian history. And the two of them became a couple together and moved to the University of California. She worked at the University of California at Riverside, and so they decided to move to California, and the two of them bought a 14-acre ranch in the Moreno Valley, which is just east of Los Angeles. And there, to this day, he tends to their herd of mules, horses, and donkeys, and he spends much of his time doing farm work. And in interviews, which he rarely does, and book signings only when he has to, according to his agent at Wolfburg Press, that says, we struggle to get him here, but we often say that he's going to be at this book signing and he doesn't show. Just to warn you, if you ever are trying to get to a book signing of Dr. Percival Everett. But he does say, in his interviews, that the animals that he spends time with have taught him patience, and that the farm work that he does helps him put everything in his life in perspective. In 1998, he started working as a professor of English at the University of Southern California in Los Angeles, where he remains to this day on faculty. He has served as the chair of the English department at that university, and he currently directs doctoral programs in literature and creative writing. My exposure to Dr. Everett was his book Erasure, which many of you probably have read, and possibly I Am Not Sidney Porter. He wrote a powerful novel. Anna just mentioned the song Strange Fruit, which he was inspired to write a novel called Trees, which is also about lynchings. And he says that when a murder or a mass group of killings happens and there's a mass grave, it tends to get a lot of attention on the news, in the press, in the culture, tends to pay attention when there's a mass grave. But when murders are done over decades, and the masses pile up, maybe they don't get noticed as much, which is what inspired him to write the book. And this is where you have to kind of embrace Percival Everett. One of the things he intended to do with his book called Trees about lynchings was he wanted to lace it with humor. So how in the world do you accomplish those two things together? He says he always wants to lace the painful, deep subjects with humor because he learned that from one of his biggest influencers as a writer, Mark Twain. And just to let you know his sense of humor, Dr. Percival Everett has a pet crow that sits on his shoulder while he writes. And he says, especially when he was writing Erasure, that he would often just talk to the crow and say, "What do you think about this?" And they would have a conversation about what he was writing. And he said sometimes the crow would watch him as he's typing and peck him, and he would go, "Oh, you don't like that sentence? Well, how should I say it?" As a matter of fact, that crow helped him write a book, a satirical book called The History of African American People as Told to Percival Everett by Strom Thurmond. I am not kidding. Check it out. And then the last piece of that humor from Percival Everett, the pet crow that sits on his shoulder, he named Jim Crow. In 2024, Percival Everett wrote a book that inspired me to bring him to our service today. It's a book entitled James. It is the story 140 years after Mark Twain wrote and submitted his text called The Adventures of Huckleberry Finn, which is what some people think is Mark Twain's greatest novel. A story of the adventures of a young boy, Huckleberry Finn, and his relationship with a runaway slave named Jim. And of course, Huckleberry Finn, Mark Twain wrote from the perspective of this young, naive boy. Percival Everett has written his book from the perspective of Jim, who calls himself in the novel James. He tells this narrative from actually inside Jim's head rather than Huck's head. Most of the events are the same, except for the times where they were separated, if you know the story. And so you get to learn a little bit what was happening in James's life while Huck was on his adventure. Everett's James is far from childish, as he's often portrayed in the story. His internal monologues resemble more of a graduate student at a university. As a matter of fact, in chapter 2 of James, and I'm going to do my best, if you haven't read this book yet, to not give too much of it away, but at least pick your interest to go and read it. But in chapter 2 of James, he teaches 6 children how to speak to white people and how to speak like Jim basically speaks in The Adventure of Huckleberry Finn. Just a short snippet of that. One of the kids asked him, James, why do we talk differently for them? And James says, the better they feel, the safer we are. And then he says, and by the way, how would you translate that phrase if you were speaking to whites? And the child responds, the mo better they feels, the mo safer we be. At the end of the chapter, a white man interrupts 2 slaves that are conversing in that dialect, and the slaves immediately revert back and are talking, and the pompous man walks on, and a little bit later they say, you know what? When they go back to speaking in normal language with each other, they say, when we see him staggering around later acting like a fool, will that be an example of proleptic or dramatic irony? Everett's not really trying to, in his words, trying to convince us that slaves actually spoke like these jargon-addicted academics. He's just using hyperbole to say that the slaves acted childish around their masters to camouflage and acted like thoughtful adults around one another. And because we're in the head of James in this story, who is an intelligent, a well-read man, who can read, who can write, who dreams and has dreams where he debates the ethics of slavery with the philosopher John Locke. Because we are in his head, we have a completely different commentary on the events that happen in Twain's book. One of the powerful parts of the story revolves around a small pencil. I won't tell you, if you haven't read the book yet, how he gets the pencil or anything else about this pencil, but with the pencil in his hand, he has the first experience of finding his ability to write his own story, to tell his story. I believe that Everett is saying that this pencil, as it was given to him, as it was offered, gave him an opportunity to now write the story that we are reading. And I think at that point, Everett kind of melds himself with the character of James in telling this story. The powerful ability to think about how I write my own story, and the power, if you've never had that ability, to hold a pencil in your hand and see yourself putting words on a paper, to think about what is it like to be able to tell my own story. That's really what this month that we are celebrating in February is all about. It's really what our work is all about. We know that there are stories that have been written and that there are stories that are left out of the history that we hear. And so we have to do the work to hear the stories of those who have lived it, to trust the experiences that matter and the voices that all matter and need to be heard. This is the time to listen and hear all that is being shared. This is where it lines up so succinctly with who we are as UUs, because we believe in this place, every voice, every understanding, every search for truth and meaning, every experience that we have contributes to the whole of who we are. And in that way, we as a congregation stand counter to tyrannical oppressors who say, this is the way, this is the only way, and I'm the only voice that matters. This is the way we as a congregation stand in direct contrast to systems of oligarchy and try to control the message and the voice and the money and all of the things and the data that is trying to shape our country in a certain way. This is how we stand in direct contradiction to the culture that is being shaped around us. If anyone is handed a pencil and writes their story, then their perspective is heard, and it will be transformative. The people who form tyrannical governments are afraid of handing out pencils. The people who form oligarchical societies are afraid of handing out pencils so that everyone can write, because they know when voices are heard and perspectives are heard, it will transform our culture. Just think about a book that maybe you grew up reading in high school. 140 years later, a pencil is placed in the hand of James, and it transforms the story. That means we may not see it in our lifetime, but that doesn't mean we don't keep writing with our pencils. People in control and wanting to control are afraid of everyone having a pencil. And you know what? That's true in your personal life as well. People who try to control you will tell you what your story is, tell you who you are, tell you who you should be, tell you what's wrong with you and what's right with you. But the truth is, you have your pencil. You write your story. You get to decide who you are. You get to decide what gender you are. You get to decide what sexuality you are. You are the one who holds the pencil. No one takes it away. They only just have a pencil just like you. Ours has an eraser. And I really believe the insecurity of those who form these tyrannical and oligarchical governments are actually writing in chalk, because that's all the strength they can muster. They are just hoping for a short victory. They are not concerned about the larger outcome of justice. So we've got to keep writing. And here, this year, we are celebrating 75 years of history as a congregation. 75 years. That means when Ron Edge was 21 years old, we started. Sorry, Madge, I had to throw that out there. 75 years of history, we have decided on a logo, so now it's set. The work is left to do is to share the stories and hear the perspectives and better understand it with every new voice and every perspective that is shared. Every time we listen to something new of the telling of our history, we are growing as a congregation. We are rewriting our history, or we, at minimum, re-understanding our history and who we are. We all now are writing our future history. We don't say 75 years and we bring this to an end. Each and every one of you, hold it up. Hold your right hand up, unless you're left-handed. Hold your left hand up. Each and every one of you have a pencil in your hand and are writing the story of this congregation. You are writing the story of this spiritual faith community. Every voice matters, and when every pencil is put to paper, we change as a group. When every new person comes in here and writes their story, we become a new congregation. We don't ask people to assimilate to who we are. We assimilate to the diversity of who we become when our community grows. We are writing the story of this spiritual community every day. And because we are writing the story of this community and we are working in this greater culture around us, the story is not finished. The stories that we hear on the news that will lead us to despair and despondency, to hide, to think it's over, the stories just remind us that how important it is to hold tight to the pencils in our hands. For we are also writing the story of this nation, and we are writing the story of this culture, and we have the ability to shape it every day. So hold those pencils tightly and keep writing.
Our closing hymn is in the Teal Hymnal, number 1051, We Are. This hymn is from a song by Isai Barnwell, composer, songwriter, singer, and longtime member of the African American female vocal group Sweet Honey in the Rock. Has a beautiful origin story, this from the UUA song information page. This is the last song in a suite that began with the lyric, Lord, it's midnight. A dark and fear-filled midnight. Lord, it's a midnight without stars. Dr. Barnwell wanted to create a complete circle of experience, and so she wrote, for each child that's born, a morning star rises. This phrase is meant to establish hope, and it defines the uniqueness of each one of us. No matter what our race, culture, or ethnicity, each one of us has been called into being and are the sum total of all who came before. In the composer's words, each and every one of us stands atop a lineage that has had at its core mothers and fathers and teachers and dreamers and shamans and healers and builders and warriors and thinkers and. So in spite of our uniqueness, we come from and share every experience that humankind has ever had. In this way, we are one. I invite you to stand in body or spirit to join in singing. In that circle of experience, you're going to sometimes in the music see 2 dots that tell you go back and sing that part again. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe who we are. For each child that's born, a morning star rises and sings to the universe.
For our closing words today, also comes from James. So I invite you to hold your pencils tightly in your hand. And I hope you have a chance to read the book to know how precious that pencil is that James receives, and hear his words about seeing his own writing, and hopefully be inspired as you continue to write the marks of justice. James says, it is my interest in how all of these marks that I'm scratching on this page can mean anything at all. If they can have meaning, then life can have meaning, and then I can have meaning.
Benediction.
I'd like to thank you all for being a part of our service today. I do have a quick announcement to read, and it's on my phone, so I'm going to have to put on the old glasses. That's all right. I still might not be able to see it. But it's an important one from our CYRE. So a week from today, there will be chocolate in the air, as our beloved chocolate auction returns just in time for Valentine's Day. So a word of warning, you might want to bring your checkbooks. I also will add to that your debit cards, your Apple Pay, any stocks that you would like to contribute to the UUCC, we can take them all. So we look forward to that chocolate auction next week and continuing to celebrate the good work of our CYRE program. Thank you all for being here for our service.